Hello everyone, welcome to part 2, and in this demonstration we're going to be working on watercolor butterflies. It's going to look like this when we get through for the most part. So we have 2 different butterflies here. What we're going to be doing is working on wet on dry methods and wet on wet methods, and I'm going to explain to you in just a moment what that means, but first I'm going to let you know what you need for this project. We'll need a stencil of some sort. If you want, you can draw your own butterfly, but that might take a little bit longer. Today I'm going to be using a stencil just so it's very uniform. You can also have a sample sheet of all of your watercolors in your palette if you want to, just to see how the color reacts with your paper or just how it looks on the paper. And of course we'll need a watercolor palette. This has many colors. You can use whatever colors you like in this experiment or in this lesson. We have a paintbrush and we will need some water. Been painting all day with this water, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll need a pencil and some clean paper, of course. Now, I'm going to explain to you first what wet on dry means. Wet on dry is we take a wet paintbrush with paint on it, and we take it to our picture and we color it with the paper still being dry. That's why it's wet on dry. That's the method we're going to do first. So first, we need to take our blank sheet of paper and we're going to take our butterfly and put it underneath our paper like this. And you can see the butterfly through the paper, and we're just going to trace him real quick. Just trace our butterfly real quick. It's going to be nice. It does not have to be perfect, does not have to be super, super precise. We just want to get a butterfly on our paper. And like I was saying earlier, you can draw your own butterfly if you want to, if that's your jam. It's however you want to do it. I just wanted to print off one so that both of my butterflies would be exactly the same. But that's completely up to you. It's like the colors that I use today, you don't have to use. You can use your own colors. It's completely up to you. Give him his other wing. Alrighty. We're just gonna finish up. See, it's not a perfect trace, but it's a butterfly. You see, that's my butterfly. Alright, we're gonna save this for our next picture. But now, the wet on dry method, we're going to take our wet paintbrush and we're gonna get a color. I'm gonna start with this dark purple color. So we're gonna take the dark purple color and we are going to take it and go all along the wings, the outside of the wings of our butterfly. And you can use a smaller brush for this if you want. It's completely up to you. I just like to use this brush because it gets the job done. And it's nice and it's very smooth, a good flowing brush. Now, one thing I'm noticing about wet on dry is that there's some harsh lines whenever you're applying your paint or your pigment. Your color is called pigment, but your paint, and you get more water as you need it. Watercolor painting is a lot easier than it may seem. Really what you do is you just get a little bit of water on your brush and you scrape off the excess. You take that wet brush and you just tap, tap, tap onto your color, and then you put it on the paper, wherever you want it to go. So now I've done the outline of the wings, and now we're going to go in with another color. I'm going to use this pink color, and like I said, you can use any colors you want, whatever colors you strike your fancy, whatever you want. I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply it to the center part of the wings that we left out just a second ago. You see, fill in that center bit. And I'm going to try to blend it into that purple. Still kind of got a harsh line, if you can see that, but that's okay. Just blend it and fill it in, and you can, whatever colors you want. I think oranges and greens would look really cool on these butterflies if that's what you want to do, if that's what you feel up to. Be really a cool change of pace. And that's what our butterfly looks so far. Now we're going to do this middle body part into this dark, dark blue color. Okay, I think that's going to look really cool with that lighter purple color. So what we're gonna do, since I'm using such a big brush, I'm gonna show you how I do it. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna drag it down, like straight up and down like that. I'm gonna drag it down the body. And see it's kind of dripping, so I'll pull it back up if it starts to drip. And if yours starts to drip and it drips all the way down, that's okay. Don't panic about it, it's gonna be all right. Just adds character to your painting. Yeah, it makes it look cooler. Now we're gonna get these two little antennae, and they don't have to be perfectly filled in, you just wanna get color on there. And that is our wet on dry butterfly. Now, let's get into wet on wet. And wet on wet, you kind of have to be careful. First, we're gonna clean our brush, but you kind of have to be careful because if you're not, you can tear your paper, you can mess it up, you can make it go, the water go everywhere. So you wanna be very careful, and I'll help you to know how to be careful. But let's draw another butterfly real quick. Okay, just gonna get another clean sheet of paper and place it on the top of our butterfly. And it does not have to be a perfect trace, like I said with the first one, because we're going to cover it in paint anyway. So it does not have to be perfect. You just want to make sure that it looks like a butterfly. That's all you should really be worried about is, does this look like a butterfly? And if it looks kind of like a butterfly, you're doing great. So that's all you need to be worried about. So we're going to do the wings first, because they're the biggest part, and I think that's so much easier to do the wings first. Nice and easy. And if you want to add to your stencil, you want to add more details in, like maybe some dots or some stripes or something like that, you can. And if you wanted to, you could look up a picture of a butterfly and maybe trace the picture of a butterfly, and that would look really cool. Just whatever you want to do, however you want to get this butterfly shape that we're going for. Almost done. And we're going to do the antenna of our butterfly. The antenna of our butterfly. There we go. Show you our traced butterfly. There it is. And now we are going to do wet on wet method, which is where we take a wet, not sopping wet, that's how we rip our paper. We just get a little bit of water on our brush and we gently take it and we scrape the excess off of our water, and it's wet, but it's not going to soak our paper. Then take it and we're going to go along the outside of the wings like we did with the paint, and see how the paper is obviously wet around that edge. That's what we're going for. You might need a little bit more water, but make sure you scrape the excess off. You do not want to sop in wet brush. Okay, there we go. Now our wing is wet and our paper is wet, and this is going to help the paint to go so much more smoothly onto the paper, and that's part of why it's so important. Now we're going to take this purple color. You can use any colors you want. Like I said, you can use oranges and greens or blues and grays, whatever you want to use. I'm just going to go with this purple color. That's what I'm doing today, and it'll show a good contrast between the two. Need a little bit more water on my brush, and if you need to add water, it's better to have to add water than to try to take it away, because you can't take water away when you're when you're watercolor. You can't take the water away, but you can always put more water on. You can always put more color on. So you want to do less and then add if you need to. Okay. So that is what the outline looks like now. Now we're going to do the middle of the wing before we start to move on, because I don't want it to dry before we get to the other wing. So we're going to go in with this pink color right here. I'm going to get a little bit of pigment, See how pretty that is? And we're just going to do the center of that wing and blend it all out. I'm just taking nice strokes. Let me show you what I'm doing, make it a little bit easier. Just like this, just up and down, blending it in. You can see how beautifully that blends with the purple because it's wet and the watercolor can move so much more freely. Now you might see, this is what I was talking about, we might make our paper a little bit too wet. and get creases like that, but that's okay. As long as your paper's not ripping, you're fine. It adds character to your pictures. But now we're going to take our wet, clean paintbrush and go along the edges of that other wing. Just get them nice and wet, but not so wet that you tear your paper. And also, if you end up with a little bit of color on your paintbrush before you're ready to put color, it's okay, because you can build on top of that. You can cover it up easily, as long as you're not trying to use black or anything like that. But now let's go back in this nice dark purple. Get a little bit of pigment, both sides of the brush. Make it a little bit easier to get the pigment, and we're going to go back along the edges of our butterfly wing, just like before. Make sure you get all of the edges. See, it doesn't have to be perfect, you just get the whole edge of the wing. And now we're going to take it and get that pink color again, that nice, pretty, purpley pink color that we were using before. We're going to blend just like we did before. I'll show you again. Oop, we forgot to get it wet. Let's get it wet and then blend. Get a little bit more pigment because we watered it down. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's all right. That's how you learn. You make mistakes and learn from them. But see, just blended it again. Just nice up and down strokes. So I am going to add a little bit more pink to that so that it'll match the other side a little bit better. But it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful so far. Perfect. Now we're going to go in with this middle color, that dark blue that we used before. We're going to get our paintbrush wet, clean it off a little bit, get it wet, take it, and go straight down the middle with it. That wet paintbrush. And you can go ahead and do the antenna if you want. See, now our middle is wet and it's ready for color. So we're going to take our still wet paintbrush and get this dark blue color that we were looking at before. So that dark blue color that we used on the other one, that's what we want. We want that dark blue color. And on this one, we're going to go straight up and down like this and just pull strokes down, and it's going to spread the color out for us, really. See? All we have to do, I'll show you on this platform right here. All we have to do, it's going to drip a little bit, and that's okay because it's wet. And we're going to just take it and stroke it down like that. And it spreads the color out for us, really. And we're going to take the tips, the very tippy tip of this with the color still on it, and put it on these antennae like so. And you can fill in right here with a really small brush if you want to add color to that. See, we got a good little bit of a tail on our butterfly, but that's okay. Let's see how that turns out. It looks even longer, it looks prettier. But that is the wet on wet, and I'm going to show you it compared to the dry, wet on dry. See the difference? See how this one's kind of leaking a little bit? That's okay. Usually you'd let these dry flat and not hold them up like this so they wouldn't do that, but I'm just going to show you anyway. But as you can see with this wet on dry, when we went around with it, the lines are a little bit harsher. You see how the lines are harsher with the pigment, and like the pink isn't as blended into the purple as the other one is. That's the difference, you know, and you can choose whichever method you like better. But remember what we did. We took a wet paintbrush with a little bit of pigment on it, and we put it around the edges with purple on it of our butterfly, around the edges of the wing. Took that same paintbrush, added a little pink to the middles, blended it out the best we could, did the purple in the middles. And with this one, like I said, there's harsh lines, but this one you have more control. You see how the blue isn't as spread out as this one is, and isn't dripping and all that kind of stuff. And like, see how the lines were outside the lines a little bit, which we're outside the lines with this one, but if you can see, it's still the shape that we want with outside the lines. And on this one, it's a little bit messier. So if you were trying to do a picture that was very bright and spread out and very blended and watercolory, then that's great for the wet on wet method. But if you're doing a picture that's a little bit more precise, like you want straight lines and you want it to go along with the line just perfect, then you may want to use that method. It's completely up to you. And I've enjoyed my time with you guys. I've enjoyed my time with you, and get ready for part 3. I'll see you then.